All right, we're live. Another episode of Monero Talk. This is our third one this week. Normally, we're only doing one episode a week, but we didn't want to pass up on this opportunity to have a conversation with Manfred of Bisq. I've been seeing him on YouTube quite often now these days. I think things are starting to ramp up over there. And I think this is a great time to have you on and to talk about Bisq and to talk about how it seems to be very much in line with the ideals of the Monero community. And I hope it will become a utility that we could all start to rely on. So if you want to quickly, maybe just really short introduction of yourself, and then we'll get into what Bisq is. And then it'd be great if we could just kind of do a quick demo of how to use it. And then afterwards, we could go into some more details, background questions. So if anybody's Googling this video in the future, they'll be able to use it as a resource to kind of quickly learn about Bisq and figure out how to use it.
Yes, thanks a lot for the invitation. Happy to be here. And as you said, yeah, there's a lot of overlap between the Monero community and what Bisq is standing for and the reason why Bisq is built. So in short, Bisq is a decentralized cryptocurrency exchange. At the moment, there's always Bitcoin on one side, and either on the other side is fiat, or any fiat currency in the world, basically, or the altcoins which are supported on Bisq, which is at the moment a quite high number, and of course Monero as well.
Wait, hold on.
Monero. Sorry?
If you hold on 1 second, I'm getting feedback over here. Hold on 1 second.
I have the headset from my side. I think it should be okay.
Okay. You there?
Yeah.
Sorry about that. Go ahead.
No problem. And luckily, also the Monero volume has picked up quite a lot recently. It was always a very strong trading pair on Bisq, but the last months it's basically done by far the number one, as more than 90% of volume is done by Monero traders. And yeah, I mean, the special thing about Bisq that we take decentralization as far as possible in this model. So it's a desktop application. You have to download it. It runs over Tor Hidden Services. That's the main reason why it's not in the web. In the web, you cannot get this form of decentralization and privacy. And it's really a network. It's not, Bisq is not a company. We are not holding your funds or your wallet keys or whatever. You have your local wallet in the application. You are interacting directly with the other peer and doing the exchange directly with the other peer. And the escrow, where the money gets locked in during the trade for security reason, is a Bitcoin 2 or 3 multi-sig address. So there's no escrow, also not the company's escrow like with local Bitcoins, but the blockchain at the end.
Right. So from the standpoint of the customer, the advantages being, so this is a decentralized exchange, a true decentralized exchange, as compared to some of these other things calling themselves decentralized exchanges, in that it's truly peer-to-peer. You guys don't hold any of the funds, and you're pretty much just matching up buyers with sellers and allowing them to transact directly. Is that
Yeah,
correct?
exactly. It's a peer-to-peer network which carries the offer book, so everybody can create an offer, and then all the other users will see this offer and can take this offer. At the moment, everything is a manual process, but we are working on APIs, so it will be in future possible to do more automated trades, especially with altcoins. And it's a little bit different like classical centralized exchanges like Kraken or Coinbase. It has some costs on convenience and speed, but it has a lot of benefits. The main benefit from usability is also that you don't have to sign up. You just download the application and use it. More or less like Bitcoin, you don't need to sign up to use Bitcoin. You just run it. You can run it even from source code. And yeah, and it's censorship resistant. So in countries where Bitcoin becomes more under pressure, like recently in India or so, that cannot be applied on Bisq because, yeah, it's decentralized and there is no company which can get under pressure.
So is it fair to say, if not today, but hopefully it soon will be, kind of the best solution for purchasing Monero anonymously and safely over the internet? Is that kind of
Yeah.
the need that it's filling?
Yeah, I think it's probably already at the moment, in my opinion, the best way to get Monero anonymously and really in a privacy protecting way, because many other exchanges like Shapeshifter have been KYC'd already, and with many others, it's a security problem. Yeah, you have your money at the exchange and you're not owning your money at the end. And just today or so, there was something on Reddit where some guy got locked in on Polynex since 7 months his money, and and they treat him like shit. And in Bisq, it follows the philosophy. I mean, it's a question why people are using cryptocurrencies, and especially Bitcoin or Monero, which have a very strong cypherpunk root in their community. I mean, when you're not caring about this values about censorship resistance, security, privacy, then you're always better off with PayPal or the existing banking system. Probably don't need to worry anyway about this. And when you use this, then go the full way and not do half-baked stuff, in my opinion. So at least I don't know at the moment another project which has the same level of privacy protection and decentralization as Bisq. And with Monero, I mean, the main problem in other currencies is still that there is not so much volume and liquidity. Luckily, with Monero, it's really high liquidity now, so you get pretty good prices on Bisq as well. And also with other fiat currencies like euro and dollar, it's already pretty good liquidity. So basically, you can trade quite quickly with a pretty good market price.
Yeah, I mean, from what I'm seeing, I think the use, the adoption is inevitable because it's really going to fulfill this need. It seems to be a tool that it, like we were saying, is really in line with the crypto anarchist or values, right? And that it's truly decentralized. But I guess the one thing is, and this is like Monero itself, is that it's not the most user friendly, and not even that. I'm sure it's designed well, but just the fact that you have to download an application, which a lot of people aren't really used to doing. I mean, obviously, anybody that's hardcore into crypto is downloading the clients, but for the most part, even most people that have, now the masses that are getting involved in crypto, most people that are using crypto are really just using apps, even mostly on their phone, just wallets that are holding the funds, and then using centralized exchanges like Coinbase's or Poloniex to do their exchanging. So there is a leap there. Even myself, I'm not big into downloading applications. I've really become like accustomed to relying on my phone completely. I've managed to make that work with Monero with the help of some friends in the earlier days before the apps existed, which is actually one of the reasons why I was so excited when Cake came along. Cake was the first open source iOS wallet for Monero, and in my opinion, and for me personally, that made Monero extremely user friendly, so I could be able to access Monero, use it on my own. But I would love to be able to use something like Bisq, but there is this little bit of hesitation with downloading the application, running it, and figuring out how to use it. I'm sure it's really easy. So, but that's why I would love to kind of jump into that now. And if you could just kind of hold our hand, walk us through it a little bit, just show us how it works. And then hopefully people that want to try it out will be able to watch this video and learn how to do that.
Yeah, I think it's probably the easiest to just show it that it's really not so difficult. Of course, it has a little bit more costs, like just clicking on a web page and the Coinbase experience. I mean, the big downside with all those services that you have to go through all the KYC registration process, which can be very painful, especially when you're not living completely the standard way and maybe don't have utility bill from electricity because you have a solar panel on your roof or whatever, and then they are not accepting all kind of utility bills also. And and we are also working on improvements in this direction. As on mobile application, there is some work going on, and it's just it's like with Bitcoin and Bitcoin Core, when you want to get really the full security and the full privacy, you have to use Bitcoin Core. Otherwise, you make compromises, which is okay. And for some people, you just have to know what are the downsides. And as I said, yeah, we are not ignoring this user group, and of course it's legitimate, and many people are preferring convenience. It just takes a little bit of effort to get there. But as said, it's really not difficult like the way it is now. Maybe we can start with the screen sharing.
Yeah, let's give it a go.
I have prepared, yeah, I think it's visible already. Or do you see my screen?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I have here, I just show quickly the setup and then explain a little bit how we do now this demo trade. I have here a local development setup which runs Bitcoin Core in a development environment where you can create your own Bitcoin coins by just over the command line here. When I write here in the command line generate one, I'm creating a new block, and with that we don't have to wait for the next block confirmation during the trade, so it's much easier and faster for doing such presentations and also for developing. And yeah, and here I have for the user to be able to see how it looks on both sides, I have here two applications. One is the Bitcoin buyer and the other is the Bitcoin seller.
Oh,
in
great.
reality, of course, you only have one application and you don't see really the perspective of the other user. Only when you are one time buying and one time selling, you get experience from both sides. But to make it a little bit more transparent for the user, I use here both. And yeah, the first thing is when you download the application and install it, it's a simple installer. Just double click and it does everything by itself. You don't need to set up anything with Tor. That's configured by the application and run.
Can you just enlarge that screen? Enlarge the two because it's showing me.
1 second.
Or just maximize the.
Maybe when I switch to this.
Yeah, maybe we view one at a time. Just open one full screen.
Yeah, doesn't help so much because it doesn't scale up all the content. Do you see it a little bit better now?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, here it's empty because I just started a new application without offers, so we have to create first an offer. Usually, you would see already here the existing offers, offer book, and when you want to create an offer or take an offer, you first need to set up an account. So for an altcoin, you go to account and here to altcoin account, and then you add your preferred currency, like Monero, for instance. And I think I have still a Monero address here. So I use, that's just a random address I found on the internet. And you use your Monero address from your Monero wallet, whatever. I mean, actually, you have to use a Monero wallet which is supporting the transaction keys, because with Monero, unlike with other altcoins, the arbitrator, in case of a dispute, cannot prove the transaction because you don't see anything on the blockchain, basically. And in that case, the Monero sender need to be able to prove that he has sent the Monero, and for that he need to use for instance, Monero GUI wallet. And yeah, I'm saving this. I get here this information, what I just explained, that you need to be able, when there is some problem with the transaction or with the trade, and the arbitrator will ask you that you are proving that you have sent the Monero, then you need to provide the arbitrator the transaction private key, the transaction hash, and the recipient's public key. And with this data, the arbitrator can verify in the Monero application that this transaction was done. But that's special for Monero. For other altcoins, that's not required, because with other altcoins, everybody can see it on the block explorer.
Okay, so just to clarify, because I can't really see it too well. So what did you enter in there? You entered in the Monero. Person's Monero public address? I'm sorry.
I will do it again. Okay, it's just a Monero public address where you can receive Monero, and that's your address, what you're using for trading in Bisq.
Gotcha.
And yeah. And on the other side, let's call him Bob, the Bitcoin seller, he has already set up a Monero address, so I did it before. And now let's say Alice wants to buy Bitcoin. So she wants to sell Monero. Also, Alice, in this case, she has already Monero and wants to change it to Bitcoin. So she's creating an offer, for instance, for 1 Bitcoin, and here she can define the price. It can be either percentage depending on the market price. So when she said, okay, I want to get it 1%, then she has basically a gain of 1% over the current market price. And when the market price is changing over time, the price is always going with the market price. So she don't have to take too much care about volatility. When she wants to control more, then she has a fixed price, and and can change it later as well. So let's stick maybe with the market price. Then that's just for the next bigger release with the DAO, or you can ignore this, what you just see at the moment.
Okay.
Here you get some background information, just explaining quickly. Also, it just tells you that you have, both traders have to put in a security deposit. That's a part of the trade protocol in Bisq and of the security model. That ensures that both traders are really following the trade protocol, because it's the human is a part of the trade protocol, which is mainly required for fiat. For altcoin, it would be possible to automate more things, but to be sure that the humans are really following their role and not stopping the protocol at some point, they have to put in a security deposit, both sides, the buyer and the seller. And in case when they would not follow the trade protocol, like when the Bitcoin buyer, when he would just not send then the Monero at some point, then he would risk to lose the security deposit when it ends up in a dispute with the arbitrator. Then there is a small trading fee. That's here 0.2% of the trade amount, and there is a Bitcoin mining fee. And I have here already some Bitcoin in my wallet. I funded it before with 10 Rectest Bitcoin. And when I have Bitcoin already in my Bisq wallet, Bisq comes with a full-fledged wallet. Then he can use this. Otherwise, he can fund it, this trade from an external wallet. So let's use the internal wallet. I got the information that it's funded. Then you can review again the offer. So all the details are here explained: the price, the amount of Monero, what she has to spend when somebody takes the offer, and and by that we will see it now on this side. 1 second. When Alice is now publishing the offer, it goes to the peer-to-peer network and get broadcasted in the whole peer-to-peer network, and every Bisq node will receive this offer and can view it then. So Bob, he wants to sell some Bitcoin and want to buy Monero. So he can see the offer and can take another offer. So let's go in this. So ignore again this screen with the fees. Here again, we see this information. This pop-ups can, they always have this checkbox, which don't show again. So it's basically for first-time users to get a little bit more background information and to understand everything. And he sees now here the price and the amount of Monero, what he would receive when he sell the Bitcoin. I also spent earlier already some Bitcoin to his wallet. So he has funded his Bitcoin already in Bisq. And again, by taking the offer, they start now the trade. And the important thing here is that the maker need to be online, because there is no server here. So the server for the offer is Alice herself. She is, when Bob is taking the offer, both are together signing a transaction and creating together this multi-sig transaction where they put in their security deposit and on Bob's side the Bitcoin, what he's selling. And this funds get locked in a 2 of 3 multi-sig where both traders are a key holder and the arbitrator is the third key holder. And to create together this transaction, both users need to be online. So only the application need to be online. Alice can sleep, but the application need to have network connection. Otherwise, Bob cannot take her offer. So by clicking confirm, the offer will now get executed. So we will see it here. It will get removed immediately. Now the offer is gone, and both will see it in their portfolio screen under open offers. And because we don't have a Bitcoin confirmation yet, Alice has to wait before doing the Monero sending or the fiat sending. She has to wait at least one blockchain confirmation to avoid double spend risks. So usually, yeah, you have to wait depending on the speed of the how long the miners take.
So right now, in that point, the Bitcoin is being sent from one guy's Bisq wallet to the other person's Bisq wallet.
No, it's locked in this multisig. Also, both have created this 2 of 3 multisig deposit transaction, and there are 1 Bitcoin from Bob, and the security deposit was both are paying that around 0.2 Bitcoin or whatever. It's a quite small amount. All this money together is locked in this multisig deposit address, and nobody can spend this funds alone. They have to cooperate to pay out at the end of the trade. Alice will receive the Bitcoin, and both get back the security deposit. And they will only do this co-signing of the payout transaction when Bob has received the Monero. So when Bob at the end will confirm, we will see this in a minute then, then they are creating together this payout transaction. So that's very important at the core of the protocol, the escrow, where now the money is locked in, like in a notary. Suppose like when you buy a house, they have to put their the money in at the notary, and the other sign some contract, and the notary is the trusted third party, and only after everything is completed, the money moves to the seller. And here it's the blockchain. We are using the multisig feature in Bitcoin as this technical solution for an escrow. And we don't want to wait 10 minutes here. That's why we're using this reg test development mode. So I can create a new block by command line. I just created it. So when this next block was created, Alice got a pop-up with the instruction that she has now to transfer the 61 Monero to the Bitcoin seller. She will see here again the address of the other guy. That's Bob's address, and that's the amount. And now the sending of Monero, or in case when it's a fiat trade, it's basically the same process in fiat. It would be just here US dollar, is out of system of Bisq. So you have to go to your Monero wallet and make the transfer to this address with this amount. And when you have done this, you just confirm it here by clicking this button. With fiat, you go to your online banking webpage, send the money to the other to the bank account of the other peer, and when you have done this, you are confirming it here. So yeah, let's assume she has opened her Monero wallet, has sent the money, and now clicks OK. She just confirms again, and now Bob's just received this message that Alice has paid. And with altcoins, it's usually very fast. Depends a little bit on the confirmation time, but usually, at least, you should see that the transaction is in the network. And as soon Bob has seen that this transaction is confirmed, that he can be sure that this cannot be reversed or double spent, then he can confirm the receipt as well. With fiat, it would be that he looks up at his bank account, and when he sees that the money has arrived on his bank account, he will confirm the payment. And when he clicks now this button, then both applications are signing together the payout transaction. In this, and it's an important part that when the trade has started, there is no requirement anymore that both peers need to be online at the same time. It's only for the take offer, because at the take offer, it would take just too long when we would work with asynchronous messages that you have to wait until Alice goes online and then she sent back, and maybe Bob is not online. So that would be just infeasible. But during the trade protocol, when Alice is not online, the messages will be stored in the network. And when she goes online again, she receives these messages and then can process the messages and can go on. She just has to be online sometime, because every trade has a maximum trade period. For altcoin, it's 1 day. So in between 1 day, you have to check, like in Bob's side, to check if Alice has sent the Monero, and when she has sent it, to check on his Monero wallet if he has received it, and then click the confirm button. Now I click this button. Again, there is a confirmation to be sure that, because with this with this button click now, the Bitcoin get unlocked, and because it's irreversible, when he make a mistake and click and have not really checked that he has received the money, and then later find out that Alice never sent the money, then yeah, he has bad luck because the Bitcoin has been paid out to Alice. And with that button click now, Alice has received now the 1 Bitcoin from Bob. She has paid 31 Monero. She has got refunded her 0.01 Bitcoin. That was 1% of the trade amount. And here she see how much she has paid on trading fee. That was 0.2%, and the mining fee. And she can just move it to her local wallet, or it's already on her. It's just, yeah, she could, yeah, that's from usability not very good at the end. She could choose to send it directly to an external wallet here, or move it just to her internal wallet, and that's it. And on Bob's side, it's similar. Yeah, he has sold 1 Bitcoin. He has received 31 Monero. He had a smaller security deposit, and the trade fee and the total mining fee.
Okay. So how much security deposit do you have to put up?
The security deposit is higher for the Bitcoin buyer because the Bitcoin buyer could choose when, and we had sometimes this case when there was very high volatility, like in December when Bitcoin price was skyrocketing in 2 days, or so it was going up a lot. And then for the Bitcoin buyer, when he took a trade, when he started a trade with the price of, let's say at the moment, $6,500. And then the next day, the price has changed to, or it was crashing down and has changed to $5,000. Then for the Bitcoin buyer, it would be economically rational to say, okay, I prefer to lose my security deposit. I will not continue to trade. I let it go to arbitration. And I'm willing to lose the security deposit, but I start a new trade with $5,000 and I get cheaper the Bitcoin. So there, with high volatility there, at some point, it's economically rational for the Bitcoin buyer to cancel out the trade. So basically, there's no way to cancel a trade. When you start the trade, you have to follow the trade. And when the trade is not completed, when, for instance, the Bitcoin buyer is not starting the Monero or fiat transfer, then after the timeout of the trade period, after 1 day in that case, the other peer, Bob, can open up a dispute. And with that, he contact the arbitrator. The arbitrator will investigate. He getting in touch with both traders. There is a chat built in the system. So it's similar like WhatsApp, but it's directly in the application. And both can communicate with the arbitrator. The arbitrator tries to find out what was going wrong. And depending on the situation, in this case, when Alice would not have paid the Monero because of the volatility, it was more opportune for her to not continue the trade. Then it's very clear for the arbitrator that she violated the trade protocol. She will lose her security deposit, and Bob will receive the security deposit. And to be more flexible because the security deposit depends a lot on the currency. Some currencies are very stable, others are very volatile, and it depends on the time. There are, like last December with Bitcoin, it was super volatile, it was going up like crazy. In such time, it's probably better to use a higher security deposit. And the offer maker, so when you're creating an offer, you can define what should be the security deposit. That is this field here. So when you create an offer, you can set the security deposit higher. I think the maximum is 0.5 Bitcoin, which is already quite a lot of money. So it does not eliminate this future trade problem that basically with high, when the price is changing a lot very quickly, that the buyer could has the option to cancel out of the trade. But it's also kind of like a limitation of the maximum damage, because for the buyer it would be also bad when you take an offer and then 1 hour later the price has crashed. It's a kind of like a maximum protection or insurance that you cannot when the volatility is very high, you have basically the option to cancel out.
Okay. And So what happens if somebody doesn't send? What's the process then? If one person sends, the other person doesn't send.
Yeah, if you like, I can show you it as well. Let's make another trade. I just make very quickly a trade again. And I show them the dispute case. So Bob is taking this offer from Alice again. Now both are in their in the trade protocol, also in this pending trade view. And at any point, it could be at the very beginning, but usually it's later, or when the trade period has timed out, then they will get displayed a red button with which states open dispute. But at any time, they can open a dispute as well. For instance, when there are some problems when you try to send the money with your bank, but you encounter that or your bank make you some troubles and you have reached your monthly limit of transactions and you cannot send it or whatever. And then it's better to not wait the other user for more days, because with bank payments, we have longer trade periods depending on the payment method. So anybody could open a dispute at any time. I just opened the arbitrator application as well. So here's my local application setup. Now we have 3 applications, and this one is the arbitrator. So when Alice, for instance, she encounters some problem, maybe she ran out of Monero for whatever, or she lost her wallet and she cannot send the money. So she can open a support ticket, it's called in this case. Dispute, it's only called when the trade period has ended and one of the persons has not completed the trade like it should be. Then it's clearly a dispute. In this case, it's usually some technical problems or some banking problems, so we call it support. And now both in the support section here just some background information, and the arbitrator will also see here both cases. So one side is Alice and the other side is Bob, and he can start to communicate. So he see here that Alice was opening the dispute, so he can ask her what is the problem. And this communication is all encrypted and over Tor and signed. So it's basically similar like Signal or some other secure messaging system. And they can communicate, they can find out what was going wrong. And depending on the situation, after a while, like it's simulated here that Alice just had a problem. Sorry, I lost my wallet. Please, I cannot make the transfer. Yeah, then it depends on the arbitrator how basically she violated her duties, because she should be sure to not have lost the wallet when she makes the offer. But depending on the situation, sometimes the arbitrator is more tolerant and say, yeah, that was an honest mistake. She didn't have bad intention, and then he can, when he knows what should be the outcome, he can close the ticket, and here he can define who should get the payout. Also, the usual case, like in this case, when Alice was not sending the fiat, then the seller got back the money. So both get back their security deposit. But he also could define that to make a custom payout to say, okay, the buyer has violated the duties, so let's give a little bit from the security deposit to the seller, and then let's give her back only 0.4, and here 0.1, also 0.01 Bitcoin. The other peer gets as kind of like reimbursement, and then he makes some summary notes.
Okay, and the arbitrator's making those decisions of.
Yeah, so there are the arbitrators at the moment, the most critical or the most problematic element in Bisq. It's still not completely decentralized. We had some ideas, and just recently found a very interesting idea for a new trade protocol where we don't have arbitrators at all anymore, but that's a little bit too early to talk more about this. But basically at the moment, the arbitrators are trusted roles in a way, because of course the arbitrator could collude with one of the peers and could be dishonest. But to avoid this, the arbitrators are at the moment only high trusted persons, basically co-founders of the project. So they have, beside of personal trust, they have all incentive to not hurt the project by scamming a user and making a few bucks, and by creating a lot of damage for the project what they have worked on for a long time. So with that, it's secure, but it's not completely decentralized and trustless and censorship resistant. So we are aware that this is a weak point which need to get fixed, and we're working on this. And for the users, it's basically not a real problem, because when there is any issue, they can trust that there is an honest party who will resolve the case. And there are basically nearly no real disputes where one peer said, I've sent the money, and the other, no, I've not received it, and one tried to scam the other. So real scam attempts, we had very, very few, maybe 5 or 10 in total over more than 2 years. And often it's also not clear. Sometimes it looked a little bit like in this case, Alice could say she has lost her wallet, but it could be that she just changed her mind, and maybe because the price has changed. So it's often not 100% clear what's the truth. But to have real clear scams, I mean, the scammer cannot gain anything, because when there is not, that especially with fiat, with altcoins, it basically always can look up the altcoin block explorer, or with Monero, then the Monero sender need to prove the payment. So it basically, there's no room for scammers. With fiat, it's theoretically a little bit more room, but we are using a very cool tool which is called Page Signer, or TLS Notary. And with that, you get a cryptographic proof of any web page which is running over HTTPS. And we use this, so when there would be a dispute that the buyer has said, he has sent the fiat, and the seller said, no, he has not received the fiat, and the arbitrator will request from both a page-signed document from their banking, from the transaction history. So Alice has to go to her banking web page, go to the history where the transaction is visible, and then use this tool, which is a Firefox plugin, and create this cryptographic screenshot in a way. So technically, it's just data. It's a little bit complicated to explain, but it's really a cryptographic proof that this web page is not tampered, that this is the same content like the bank has sent to her. And she sent this to the arbitrator. The arbitrator can view then this particular page, nothing else. So it's no security risk that the arbitrator could log into her banking web page. He only can see that there is this outgoing payment from Alice Banks. And when Bob cannot prove this, then he can already make the decision to Alice side. When Bob would be able to prove the same, then it's a problem between the banks. But with this in place, the scammers don't even try it, because they know when the other peer can prove this with Page Signer, they already lose, and then they lose their security deposit. And scammers prefer to not risk and lose money. So that's the reason why we have basically 0 scams. The only real risk is chargeback scams, and there have been 2 with fiat payments, with Zelle in America. There have been a few more with Cash App and Venmo, but then we removed these payment methods because they are basically as insecure as PayPal. You just call their customer support that they should make the chargeback, and they do it. That was a little bit too not good investigated before we added these payment methods, and we removed it immediately after the scams. But beside this, as on all the payment methods, what we have since the beginning or since long time, there have only been 2 chargebacks with relative small amounts, with something like $300. So it's because with banks also, it's not so easy to make a chargeback, and you cannot repeat it easily. When you make every week a chargeback with your bank, you get troubles with your bank as well.
So how many trades are you seeing a day?
At the moment, with this Monero spikes, I think a few days ago it was more than 100 a day. That was, I think, our best day ever, and something like 60 Bitcoin a day. But I mean, in average, I think the last month was around 1,000 or 1,500 trades a month. and it's growing quite a lot since
Do you know how
2-3 months.
unique? Do you have an idea of how many unique downloads you have, unique users, or?
We see it in our download statistics from the application. 1 second, I can show you. In Bisq, everything is, I know I don't have it quickly here. I can post it then afterwards. And it's usually around 10,000 downloads of the application. And we have usually quite often new releases. So every 1 or 2 months, there is a new release. And we see that basically with every release, we get more or less the same numbers, or it's growing. So those are probably the users who are regularly using Bisq. And so roughly, I think 10,000 users, probably more or less the active user base. And offers at the moment are probably 200 offers. And yeah, a lot of offers are Monero. I guess something like 50 or 60 offers. As Monero, the offer book is now really well filled. So when you want to trade Monero with Bitcoin, you will get the price. And the spread between the best buy and the best sell offer is usually around 1% or so. So I think that's pretty good price. There's probably some good arbitrage opportunity because we're using market price providers for fiat and for altcoins. For altcoins, it's Poloniex. So the price, what you see here, for instance, that comes from Poloniex, and it can be that the Poloniex price is a little bit too high or too low in relation to other exchanges. And then the Bisq prices are moving a little bit with the Poloniex price because many people are using this feature with the percentage-based price. And arbitrators can, when they find out, okay, at the end, you can buy some Monero on Bisq and then sell it with a profit on another exchange because of some arbitrage differences. So there's probably some good opportunities.
So what was this recent spike in Monero usage from? Do you think it was because of the shapeshift thing, or?
I think it's a natural development and network effects, and for sure shapeshift has helped. I mean, Monero was very strong from the beginning. It was always our number one altcoin. And I mean, in general, the focus of Bisq and the reason why we started the project is for fiat, because I think that's the most important missing element, that the Bitcoin ecosystem is missing a decentralized gateway where you can get in and out of fiat in a model which follows the same philosophy as Bitcoin.
Right, that's something you guys are potentially working on with the Monero community.
Yeah, and with Monero, of course, there's a lot of overlap with all this cypherpunk methodologies and privacy protection concerns and so. But of course, with altcoins, at some point we will get more in direction of automated, like atomic swaps and such stuff. I mean, it's still not really there, and the projects which are offering are usually not decentralized or not really decentralized when you look closer.
The fiat to Monero, how far off do you think that is?
We just had a discussion yesterday with 2 Monero community members, and in summary, the situation is like that. Also, there is quite a lot of requests from Monero supporters that we should work on adding Monero as a base currency, and because Monero is supporting now multisig, it should be technically possible. The main problem is it just is a lot of effort. I assume it's something like half a year for a very experienced developer.
Oh, wow.
And so it's not a small thing. And we have a few interesting plans, which for in this time scope as well, also for the next year, we want to get rid of this current trade protocol, which is based on multi-signature, and want to introduce an off-chain trade protocol, which is a little bit probably too far away from this conversation to explain in detail, but it's related to our Bisq DAO. So we are, as I said, Bisq is an open source project, and we are at the moment in the process of launching the decentralized autonomous organization, which comes with their own token, called BSQ, which is a color coin on Bitcoin.
Yeah, let's go get into that in a little bit. But if somebody were to try this out for the first time, and they, it's not as simple as a centralized exchange for all the reasons we were talking about. if they were running into issues or, you know, needed some hand holding, what would be the best method for them? I mean, is that something, what are people doing as they're trying to use this and figure it out? Does everybody essentially just figure it out? Or is there a lot of kind of customer support that's happening through forums, or how are people going about this?
Yeah, so there is the Bisq forum and the Slack, and also on GitHub. And I mean, the main platform is the Slack for such customer support. And there are always some people hanging out there who help very quickly. And actually, we got very positive response that our support is much better, like professional support at many exchanges. And I think it's also much faster. I myself experienced from the past when I use centralized exchanges, and you wait then 1 or 2 weeks just to get the first answer, basically. And in Bisq, it's usually resolved in 1 or 2 days, and the first answer is usually on the same day. The arbitrators, of course, are your first. So when you have any problem in the trade process, you can open such a support ticket, and then it goes to the arbitrator, and the arbitrator is basically a specialist who can help you with everything. So there was 0 cases where people has lost money, and where things has not been resolved, or where people have really been disappointed and has left Bisq. Yeah.
So what would be your advice to somebody that's just getting it, wants to try for the first time? Like, what should they do? Should they just jump into it, download the application, and just try out a little trade, try out a small trade?
Yeah, I
And
think
then if they're having some issues, just go to the forums or do a
exactly. Yeah. I think it's really, I mean, I got the feedback from many, even completely non-technical persons, and some were really completely newbies to Bitcoin, and they tried Bisq as the very first application on Bitcoin, and they were surprised how simple it was. Of course, it depends always. Some people are more talented with technical and understand more quickly, or some stuff, and others need more time. But basically, I think it's not really so complicated. We have a lot of help in the application with these pop-ups, which are explaining their background, why you should do that, and so on. It's a little bit of small issues for people who are very used to centralized exchanges. They have a certain mindset in their head and expectations. Then they come to Bisq, and it's a different model. For people who are used to local Bitcoin or other markets or over-the-counter trading systems, it's more similar to this. So it's not there. There's no offer matching. You are not taking it from the exchange. You are really trading with another peer. So it's a different model, and you have to learn this a little bit and get used to this. But I think it's really not difficult, and you can make very small trades just to try it out. There's not big risk. And the worst thing is that you don't like it and you don't come back. The trading fees are very low. The trading fees are even lower when you are a maker and you make an offer with a very good price, which is close to the market price. Then the trading fee get to a very minimum, which is something like $20 cent or so. So when you just want to try it out, make an offer with a very good price, then usually it gets taken very quickly. You nearly pay no trading fee, and transaction fees on Bitcoin are also very low at the moment, luckily. And I think, and then it's much easier after the first time. You have more confidence to the system. You understand it much better.
Do you think? How simple do you think this can get? Could it eventually get as simple as a shapeshift or morph token, where maybe it integrates through an API with an existing some existing wallets, so it just feels like you're moving in from one currency to the other, but kind of all of this is happening automatically on the back end. Will it ever reach that point?
With the current trade protocol, it might be difficult because there, for instance, is time for waiting for the blockchain confirmation. But with this new plans for this off-chain trade protocol, there is no need for any cryptocurrency anymore in this model. It works basically that both are setting up a security bond, which is in BSQ, and with this amount, inside of this amount of the bond, they can trade. And when they would violate the trade protocol, they will risk that this bond get burned or get destroyed. And by that, you can trade dollar to fiat, to euro. You can trade apple to banana, because in the trade protocol, there is no blockchain. The trade protocol is then completely flexible, and then you can use Lightning, and we can implement much more user-friendly interfaces where you can super fast. It depends only on the way how you send the money. So when you would have a Lightning transaction between Bitcoin and Litecoin, then the trade can be done in 1 second. With fiat, the banks are slow and complicate. With other altcoins, you usually have then the blockchain confirmation on the altcoin side. But we are much more flexible then. But a little bit too early to get too deep into this. It's just in the early days of the concept development for this. But I think that will be a very interesting solution when we get there. And also with the current one, we are working on a redesign with the next release in about 1 or 2 weeks. We have a big relaunch of our design. We got a really cool new design and a little bit of different logo as well. And we are working, with this release, there is basically not much usability changes, but after this, we will focus a lot to improve usability where we see, okay, here are some hiccups in the UI. People get confused to try to polish this to make it easier. And yeah.
And could it eventually be to the point where it's integrated into other things? For example, like one of the iOS apps, like the Cake Wallet or the Monero, where Bisq is integrated into one of those, so you're not even downloading the application; it's within your wallet. Is that something that could be?
So with the APIs, there will be much more possibilities, and then there is also open door for centralized services which want to use Bisq as a kind of like a backend. And that's nothing what we actively will support, because basically against the values and the ethos of Bisq, because then you come back to the model that you have to trust this web page, that they're not running away with your wallet and whatever. But because it's possible, and with the API it will become possible, at some point people will do it when it's profitable for them. So we cannot avoid it either. So that's probably one avenue where people who prefer privacy, convenience over privacy and over security, that they are moving more in this direction. Bisq is still benefiting because those projects will bring volume to Bisq and help then the other users who are still using the core application. So we are not terribly against this. It's just not that we will not actively push this, because it's not what we are up for. And I mean, maybe we find some solutions like, there will be this Bisq wallet, which at the end will be a fully featured implementation of the current Bisq application, or not wallet, Bisq application, mobile application. So you can do the full trade over mobile. You just will either you have on your home computer running Bisq, or you have it somewhere in the cloud. You need somewhere this kind of server, because there are no servers in Bisq. So you have to be the server. And there could be also some services that some people are offering in a more or less trustless and secure way, such services. So you pay $2 a month and you get this hosted by somebody when you're not so technical to do this yourself. So there will be some development in this direction, but it's a little bit early days still. At the moment, our main focus is more this cypherpunk user group, because for them, for us, it's easier to reach them because we don't need a lot of effort to convince them. They they don't have so much problem usually, that it's a little bit less convenient, like centralized exchanges, and they help a lot to spread the word, because they're really then convinced from the project by its values. And we don't have a marketing budget, and we don't want to do classical marketing or PR. When we would like to go in direction more mainstream users, it will be very hard for us to reach those users, to convince them. And I think maybe in 1 or 2 years, we will be more ready to go a little bit more in this direction. Probably there will be always some limitations, because I think you never get everything.
So are a lot of you guys Monero enthusiasts? The guys behind Bisq?
I think there's a big overlap. I mean, most developers, they have their preferences and cannot hold it back too much. Basically, we try to be more or less neutral with altcoins. We don't have time also to investigate in all the new altcoins which are popping up every day. And that can be very interesting. So, I mean, many Bitcoiners are Bitcoin maximalists and say everything else is bullshit, beside maybe Monero and 1 or 2 others. I'm not so extreme. I respect a lot, and even those who are basically wrong or make a lot of mistakes, they help us to learn from them. So when they get attacked and blow up, then they show us how to not do it. So I think it's basically good that we have a huge diversity. And I mean, Monero for sure is, for me, it's nearly more important like Bitcoin, because it really solves the privacy problems. Bitcoin has a big privacy problems. Hopefully will get solved over time, but it's very slowly, and it's harder to move because it's much bigger already. And but yeah, for me, Monero is basically very, it has a huge overlap with Bisq, maybe even more like with classical Bitcoiners. But usually, I mean, the Bitcoin, the cypherpunks, this Bitcoin maximalists, they also have usually a very strong overlap with our intentions and values.
Who are the guys behind? How many guys are working on Bisq? Like, how many are there? Is there kind of a core team? And then, I mean, I know it's an open source project, so are there a lot of developers that are contributing?
Yeah, we're growing quite good as well. At the moment, I think there are around 4 or 5 more or less full-time developers. They're not always working full-time because they are for some personal reasons also, but basically they are committed for working full-time. There are at the moment 3 or 4 more who are in their entry phase, who are either have already started to learn about the system and start to work on it, or just still in the considering phase and need to learn a little bit more to get convinced to really work on it. And with the Bisq DAO, I mean, so far, nobody got paid in Bisq. I mean, beside the arbitrators, they're the only one who are receiving the trading fees. And because the arbitrators are co-founders, it's aligned. And of course, they have work. I mean, it's not the fun work to be every day online and resolve these disputes. It's basically customer care work. And I did it the first 1.5 years, and I was happy to stop to do it because it's really not the funniest thing.
When is that going to transition to where you have, outsiders kind of partaking as arbitrators?
Yeah, it's actually, we want to get rid of this arbitration system because that's very problematic because of this third key. So he is a part of the escrow, and he has, it has security risk, legal risk.
No, but to the point where even if you don't get rid of arbitrators tomorrow, like you said, I mean, it's taking up your time, right? The time of the developers or this. So are you guys going to try to bring in more people from the community to then act as the arbitrators, or how do you plan on scaling that up in the meantime before you come up with this alternative solution?
I think we will stick with this the next half year until we have a new solution, which will be either their off-chain trade protocol, which also don't have arbitrators. Then there's only we call it the mediators. They are only like customer care agents, basically. They help you when there are problems, but they don't have a key. So there is no security risk, and there is no trust risk, and no centralization risk, and no legal risk. And you can manage such a customer care system much more flexibly, because when an arbitrator at the moment, when he gets sick, he cannot hand over the case to a deputy because he don't want to hand over the Bitcoin and the Onion key for the communication. So basically, we only can delay it, and it's a little bit, it has quite a few problems. And so basically, I'm pretty convinced that the path forward is to just get rid of it. And until we get rid of it, we probably stick like it is, because it would carry too much security. Maybe we extend it, that there are more trusted people who become arbitrator in the next months, but we cannot really distribute it to a wider group because it's a security risk. They could collude, and then they create a huge damage for Bisq, and it's not.
So Biscoin itself, or the DAO, is just being released now.
Yeah, so with this next release on probably 1 or 2 weeks, we are releasing the Bisq DAO on testnet. Then people can play around and can get familiar with it, and then hopefully end of the year, it depends how long we need for fine-tuning and for testing and bug fixing, we will release on mainnet. And I mean, the main concept of Bisq DAO is for those people who have, or maybe I explain also the concept of decentralized autonomous organizations a little bit. It's basically just the idea that there is an organization which is decentralized and which works in an autonomous way. There are no legal entities, there are no bosses. Bitcoin itself can be seen as such a DAO in a way. And the Bisq DAO is a little bit more concrete because we are implementing with this color coin. We have implemented some special features which are using the blockchain and the peer-to-peer network and cryptography to make it secure and trustlessness and decentralized. That's mainly voting and compensation requests. So contributors who are working on Bisq, like developers or anybody who adds some value, like making a video for explaining Bisq or whatever adds value to the project, they can make a request for compensation for their amount, which they think it's a fair market value of that what they have delivered. And then at the end, also we have some monthly cycles. We are running this since a year already. And at the end of the month, the contributors are making their request. And then there is a voting phase where every BSQ stakeholder can vote on such requests. They can accept it or decline it. And when after the voting phase, your request has been accepted by the majority, then you have created your own this amount of BSQ. And this process is quite interesting because the decentralized issuance model, and it's a little bit like a Bitcoin miner. There is nobody who clicks, who presses a button, who says now the miner gets the block reward. It's that the miner has the authority to create new Bitcoin when he finds the block. Right. So when he fulfills a certain requirement, then the network accepts this as new money. And here it's similar. When the contributor gets voted okay, then the network interprets a special Bitcoin transaction where you are using a tiny amount of Bitcoin for funding your BSQ, which will be a much higher amount in the dollar terms. That this transaction is now kind of like a small Genesis transaction where you have created new BSQ for yourself, and only when you got voted okay, that is valid. Otherwise, it's just simple Bitcoin. It's not BSQ.
And is it so? Why not just fund it all off of the transaction fees, the exchange fees? I mean, if you look at a centralized exchange, I mean, they have, their money, their revenue coming in, which is basically exchange fees, and then they use that to run the business essentially, right? I mean, there's other revenue models as well, but so that it's in itself can't support the development and
it's not. We're already getting very close. As I think this month probably we have around 25,000 revenue with trading fees in dollar, and the usual costs what we are issuing every month on contributors is around 50,000. So we have already on the halfway. When it goes on with Monero, like the last 2 months, in 1 or 2 months we are break even. Mm-hmm. That's not the problem. The problem is that you cannot do it in a decentralized way. Because you cannot distribute this trading fee to many different people, then it's a question how much of the percentage of the fee one should receive. So who makes this decision? And I was working on in earlier ideas about the DAO in more simple models where you use a foundation in Switzerland, and then the foundation is getting the funds and doing the payout. And it would have worked in a way, but then it's much more closer to a normal company model. And instead of a company, you have a foundation. And it adds at the end centralization risk and censorship resistant risk. And you're tied to the legal system. So we want to find
are you familiar with the Monero forum funding system?
A little bit, yeah. I think, that's not so bad, but I don't know exactly how the voting or the decision-making works, if they're using really something secure, like blockchain-based voting, or if it's just kind of like upvotes on a forum or something like this.
Yeah, okay. So you're saying that's not sustainable, a method like that?
Yeah, I think it can work, and it's for sure a good approach to have something simple, which works good enough. But you cannot really scale up, and especially it's not really censorship resistant, because when it would be on the forum, when some governments would start to make pressure on Bisq and try to shut it down, they will find all these centralized choke points and put the pressure on this. And
So you have the money coming in from the transaction fees, and now you're creating essentially Bisq coin on top of the Bitcoin that's being funded by these transaction fees. Is that fair to say?
No, it's a little bit different. Also,
Is there more coins and value in Bitcoin than the revenue that's coming in from the transaction fees?
I have to explain a little bit more. Also, yeah, the BSQ token is a color coin. So it's technically it's Bitcoin, but it's a very tiny amount of Satoshi, which represents one BSQ. And it's, in fact, it's 100 Satoshis, one BSQ. And one BSQ will have a value, I don't know, between $1 and $10 maybe. At the moment, we just say it's $1 because nobody knows what will be the market value. But it depends when it's traded, and we will find what the real market value is. And this 100 Satoshi is much, much less like $1. It's something like 0.01 cent or so. So to create to fund or to create such a color coin, it costs you a little bit of Bitcoin, but this amount is much less like the amount what you created. A little bit like with fiat, when you print a dollar note, it has some printing costs, the paper has some costs, but yeah, I don't know, a dollar note costs maybe 5 cents, but dollar is much more like the 5 cents what it costs in paper. And we start with a Genesis distribution. That's very common model in color coins. And there we are taking 2.5 Bitcoin from our donation address, where we received something like 25 Bitcoin over time. And and that's the input, the technical input. And we are distributing this 2.5 Bitcoin as 2.5 million BSQ. Because technically it's then 2.5 million BSQ, and we are distributing this to all the past contributors who have contributed to the project over the last year and in the first years, and they will become the initial stakeholders. So
how are you deciding like how much, who gets how much? Is that based on anything?
So the first
done?
Yeah, we wanted to start this already a year ago, and we did already a distribution on the testnet to have it basically, somewhere visible. And in this time, we didn't have this voting process and so on. So I asked basically everybody who has contributed, who are new, and then also the community, people who have been active on the forums and on PR and traders to make a compensation request and to make basically to ask me what they would like to get for their compensation. And then I summed it up. I adjusted it. Some requests, very few, were a little bit crazy, others were too low, and I adjusted it up that there was more. So I was basically, I'm the main developer and the founder, so I had basically the authority to make the distribution like I found it was fair. And we will still use this when we do the real launch on mainnet. But additionally, we have started then last August or September, we have started these voting cycles where the current contributors make every month their contribution request, where they say, I want to have whatever, 8,000 BSQ because I worked on this, and I'm used to get paid $8,000 when I'm a developer, so that's the same amount what I would like in Bisq. And we are summing up this from the last year from all the contributors. I think it's probably roughly 500,000 BSQ or a little bit more maybe. So that will be added. We are bringing it down to 2.5. We make basically a redistribution of this initial Genesis distribution. And so with this, we start. And then after the Genesis distribution, every month, every contributor their request. At the end of the month, there's the voting. And then every contributor will issue a small amount of BSQ, what he requested. And so every month we create new BSQ. We have a inflationary pressure here. So we are printing more and more money. And on the other side, the trading fees, that's what you have seen in the application where I told you just ignore this. In future, when the DAO is out, the users can choose to pay the trading fee in Bitcoin or in BSQ. And when they choose to use BSQ, they get a big discount, something like 90% cheaper.
Where are they getting BSQ from, though?
They can buy it over Bisq then. as they have to buy some BSQ on the market, and with that they are creating the demands. And that's the basic idea, that
so that's
the
where the
users,
value of Bisq is going to come from, the community
exactly,
that's purchasing Bisq.
exactly. The main idea is that the users who are consuming the service, the project, they are giving some money. They are distributing the value, what they are consuming, to the people who are building it, who are working on it. And that happens over this model that they are burning actually this BSQ. So they are buying some BSQ on the market, using it for trading fee. By using it for trading fee, those BSQ get burned. Technically, they get uncolored, so they are Bitcoin again and used for miner fee, but they are destroyed as BSQ. And here we have a deflationary pressure, so there are less and less BSQ. The more traders we get, the less BSQ will be in their supply, and with that, every BSQ token will have more value when there are when there are less in supply. And the contributors can sell their BSQ, what they have issued, what they have earned on the market, and their users can be the potential buyers. So that's basically an economic cycle. And with the special features, and that's the reason why we needed to implement our own color coin and couldn't use Bitcoin or any other existing altcoin. I mean, it could have worked probably with Ethereum or whatever, but we didn't want to get the dependency on another project, and Ethereum has a lot of issues with security and scalability. So we implemented our own color coin system, where we have all these features, like that you can burn BSQ, that you can make the bonding, which we are using, for instance, then for arbitrators, that arbitrators need to set up a lot of bond to add more security, that they cannot scam. And also for this off-chain trade protocol, the bond will be the central element, that both traders will set up a bond. And with that, it's a little bit like with Lightning channel. They're opening basically a channel, and then they can, in Lightning, you once open a channel, and then you can send Bitcoin back and forth over years. You don't have to renew the channel when you stay in between of this amount of the channel. And with this off-chain trade protocol, you are setting up a bond, and when the bond is big enough, like something like $10,000 in BSQ, then you could trade in parallel up to $10,000, and you don't need to renew this transaction until you are reaching the limit and you want to trade more. And that makes it then very flexible and removes all the problems with transaction fees. When transaction fees become very expensive, the current model is not future-proof, because you don't want to trade when you pay $50 on transaction fees, miner fees. And with such an off-chain trade protocol, you can find a way to transfer your coin or your fiat in a way which is cheap enough for you. You're decoupled from the trade protocol.
Now, it being open source, if people don't like the model with the Bisq coins, do you think somebody could just fork it and create their own? Is that a potential issue there, or it won't work without the coins?
Also, nobody's forced to use this coin. They still can use the Bitcoin and pay a higher trading fee, and that's it. So we don't force people into the system. When they don't want to use it, no problem. And it's open source, and anybody can fork it. But I know from myself how much effort, how difficult it is to run such a project, how difficult it is to bootstrap a market. So I'm not really scared of this. And it says insurance. It's very important part of the whole concept and system, because it's insurance. So when we do something really stupid, like Ethereum has done with the hard fork when they bailed out the DAO, that was a very stupid decision at the end, and they have created a lot of damage and have created at the end the reason for Ethereum Classic, that the fork was successful. Otherwise the fork would not have gone anywhere, because nobody would have really supported it. And here it's the same. When Bisq at some point do really stupid decisions, then it's probably good that there is the option that people can fork it and can make an alternative. And it keeps us also, we always have to think of this, that when we are doing risky decisions and not really thinking on the user perspective, how it is for the user, we are risking such a fork. So we have to be much more careful when it would be more a closed system where we don't have this risk.
How did the development get as far as it's gotten without Bisq coin? So just basically through donations and the idea that people were working under the intention that one day you guys would come up with this model and they would be repaid under it?
Yeah, so far, nobody. I mean, sometimes I paid from my own pocket some developers when I really wanted to get stuff, but that was always limited. I'm not rich as well. And I never took investor money. I didn't want to go the investor route. Also, this idea for the DAO was there from the very beginning. It was just not clear, and never had time to really build it before. And so far, most contributors are more altruistically motivated. And of course, since the DAO is more concrete, they have at least the promise that what they are working get compensated someday when the DAO goes live. But it's also clear for everybody, as long as it's not live, this promise is just a promise. There's no contract. And yeah, and when the DAO goes live and the money is real and what you can earn, you can sell that directly on the market and can convert it to Bitcoin and to dollar, then hopefully it's also easy to find more developers, because at the moment it's still hard to find, there are not so many people who can afford it to live without a fixed income and to take the risk. And there are so many projects in the blockchain space, so many companies looking for developers. There are a huge demand on good developers, and you get paid a lot, and many very interesting projects as well. So it's a high competition to get good developers, and with the DAO, hopefully that becomes easier to find more developers. But I mean, we're pretty good at the moment. So we have quite a few very high-skilled developers in the pipeline who will hopefully join soon. And I think when all those join who I have in mind, then we have a pretty strong and good team, and we're basically good.
That's great. Yeah, no, it's exciting. I mean, you guys are hopefully, what it seems like, is building a real, backbone that we need in this, decentralized universe here that we're all building together.
Yeah. The funny thing is that nearly nobody knows that Satoshi himself has built in a marketplace in the first version of Bitcoin. It was the pre-release version of the one which got released, so he removed it then in the last minute. It was not really finished. It was just a stop-off. But it was a clear idea. It was probably more in direction like Open Bazaar, so market, not a direct currency exchange, more a marketplace. But of course, there you can exchange currencies as well. And I think it has shown that he was very aware that it's really important to have not only the currency level, but to have this other layer where you can use the currency for buying stuff or for exchanging it to other currencies. And he has taken it so serious that he built it in the reference client. So and it's really pity that after nearly 10 years now, there was not much going on in this direction. And the main problem is probably that it was just much easier to get funding for a block explorer, like to build a decentralized exchange, because it's open source. It doesn't fit so well in the classical capitalist funding models of startups and investors and so on. And and there are not so many people who, and it's also, I mean, such a big project, it has a lot of different difficult areas, like creating a UI, supporting it with with user support, creating a community, creating a market. It's not only coding. I mean, there are many hackers and very sophisticated developers who love to hack crazy ideas and implement a kind of like a prototype. And this prototype is never really usable because it has no UI, and there's no project around, and all the infrastructure is missing and so on. But they are not the persons who want to do this extra work, which is often not fun. Then you have bug fixing, and it's a lot of work which is not fun at all, and where usually it's only done by companies who get who earn money, and that's why they're doing it. And that's probably one of the reasons why there was not much development in this direction.
And now with all the regulations starting to really pop up and affect these other methods that are centralized methods that are currently being used, people are really seeing the need for a decentralized version.
Yeah, and that's probably the other reason why there was not more in this direction, because when you go the normal classical way with a company and investors, the investors will make you the pressure someday when they need, when the pressure comes for KYC, like we have seen it with Shapeshift and local Bitcoin. And it's just a question, at the point when you become relevant and bigger, they apply the pressure. And when you have investors, they will forward the pressure. They want to make money, and they will not stick to the cypherpunk ideas.
How about these other things that are calling themselves decentralized exchanges? What are they in comparison to you guys?
As I don't have the time to really investigate and follow them very closely. The only one which is very close to Bisq is OpenBazaar, basically, but they have investors in a company, so that's, I think, their Achilles wheel. And I mean, yeah, with the block size debate and they moved quite far away now, or they moved away from the core Bitcoin community and so on. I think they lost quite a lot of supporters from the early days. But anyway, I think from the concept, it's very close. I'm also not following so closely that I don't know any details. Beside this, there are many projects which are only altcoin or even only token exchanges where you can only exchange Ethereum tokens or BitShares or whatever. I have not looked close into this. They're probably okay, because I mean a pure token exchange is probably, that's the easiest thing to do. The next harder thing is to make it cross-chain, that between different altcoins, to have it decentralized, and the hardest is to make it with fiat. And for me, the fiat part was always the really important thing. Also, I think we will see at some point really fully decentralized, fully trustless, and automated token and altcoin exchanges. That's technically not the biggest challenge. I'm not sure how much at least the most successful one, like this T0X, how it's called, on Ethereum, I think most of them, they are not very decentralized when you look a little bit closer. Maybe, yeah. But I cannot make too much statements here because I didn't have really looked closer into it. But there have been quite a few articles a while ago that have been on CoinDesk, an article where the journalist has investigated a lot of them and basically come to the conclusion that none of them is really decentralized when you look closer. And of course, it's not a black and white with decentralization. And in Bitcoin, yeah, you have the problem with mining centralization and so on. And some people say that's, Bitcoin is not really decentralized because of this, and other people have arguments against this. And in Bitcoin, in Bisq itself, as I said, I mean, currently the arbitration system is our weakest point. That's not fully decentralized because of the security problems, and security is more important, or we cannot make compromises there and risk that people lose their money, or that Bisq lose their reputation when people get scammed. So, but we are on the way to fix this. So our goal is to be really fully decentralized, but it's a difficult challenge. It takes time to get there. And from my overview of the market, on the fiat side, I think we're the only one beside OpenBazaar, which started a little bit also with altcoin over fiat trade, but I don't think that there is a real market there. And with altcoin exchanges, there are probably others, and probably you have to look closely when there is a company behind it, for me already not decentralized. I mean, for me, a good measurement how decentralized a project is to ask how many doors you have to knock to shut down the project. And in Bisq, it's also, when they knock my door and I get kicked out, Bisq is in the trouble, but it probably will not die. I think it's already in the level that it can continue with the other contributors, and many contributors are anonymous, then it will be hard to find the doors. So, but it's still not there like where we want to go, that there's basically 100 doors like in Bitcoin. Yeah, when they try to make pressure on Greg Maxwell, it will not have any effect on Bitcoin, hopefully. I mean, it will have effect when Greg Maxwell will not work anymore, but it's not a disaster. It will not stop Bitcoin. And with a company, I mean, this question is very simple answered. So when they get their letter and get pressure, they will do what's required. Otherwise, they have to shut down the company. There are very, very few companies who go the way. There was one email service, anonymous email service in America a few years ago, who stopped their business when they got the pressure, and that's a completely exception. Usually, the company just go on and change their strategies and yeah.
All right. Well, I encourage anybody that's that sees this video that's interested to dig deeper, get involved, maybe download the client. I haven't done it yet myself. I will test it out, because I think if any community should be supporting Bisq, it's the Monero community. Obviously, you're seeing that with the whatever it is, the 98% transaction volume coming, being from Monero, because of our anonymous nature and the potential for us to be, a target of regulation, and something like Bisq and potentially other decentralized exchange solutions really being what we would eventually have to rely on to keep Monero going. So yeah, full support. I wish you the best of luck. And what else, if people do want to get involved on a deeper level, other than programming? I think I had even heard you mention yesterday, if somebody wanted to make a how-to video or whatever it is, how could people, I know the Bisq token hasn't been launched yet, but how could people start to get involved and start to maybe kind of start working for Bisq?
Yeah, I mean, there are many areas. Basically, anything what adds value to the project is up to compensation. There can be that somebody writes a song and the song is great, and yeah, I mean, it's not limited to that ideas what we have, but the usual stuff is like translations. There we have already quite maybe too much already, because it doesn't help us when we get exotic language translated and there is no market and there is no community locally who is bootstrapping Bisq. That's the hardest part, and actually that's maybe the most important, that we get local communities in countries like Latin America or in Asia, in India, who are starting using Bisq, who are promoting it, who are explaining it at meetups. To do, we don't want to do like professional promotion with advertising and paid marketing or whatever. That's completely against our ethics. We want people who are really convinced and spread the word, and then who have reputation already in community and help Bisq to grow. And whatever they do, whatever effort they're investing, they're up for compensation requests. Yeah, producing videos.
So how do they actually do? How do they get in touch with you or Bisq to kind of submit these ideas and for compensation requests?
Yeah, the best is to join our forum or Slack or GitHub, and just get in touch with the community there. Talk with them. The compensation request is quite easy. There's a GitHub repository where you file an issue, where you create an issue, and there it's instruction and all described in our documents page, also docs.bisq.network. There is a lot of documentation about all kind of stuff, especially like that, and the DAO, also more background about the DAO. And you basically say, okay, I made this video, here's the link to the video. I want to have whatever this amount of BSQ, which is basically the same like dollar at the moment, is $1 is 1 BSQ, because nobody knows how much it will be, but we need to have a consensus. And it's based, also the reason why we say $1 is 1 BSQ is that, yeah, we are starting with 2.5 million BSQ as the genesis for the project. So we say the initial value of the project is $2.5 million. I think that's quite understatement. When you look at many other projects who got investor money, they are evaluated to much, much more. So probably a real price might be more, but that's up to the market and later. But below $1 is probably unrealistic when we're not completely feeling and communicating the idea of the DAO. But at the moment, before the DAO is out, basically it's $1. That adds a lot of opportunity, because when the real value will be $10, then yeah, you have got paid 10 times more in 3 months when the DAO is out. But of course, nobody knows. It can be also 50 cents. And there's actually one interesting stuff what I forgot to mention. We discussed it yesterday, but the people who have not seen the yesterday's video on our growth call, regarding this request for making a Monero a base currency, which is probably not very realistic short term.
Mm-hmm.
We have another more short term proposal what we would like to get implemented, that this Monero wallet integration, so that you can send and receive your Monero directly in Bisq. Mm-hmm. And the easiest way would be that you run Monero daemon in background, and we are RPC. You are communicating with this Monero daemon, or maybe there are other ways. I'm not expert on the Monero wallet landscape, but it would not be for a experienced Monero developer who knows the Monero side well and who has a little bit experience with Java. It should be not really a lot of effort. I think it can be done in a few weeks or months, or 1 month or so. And that would be definitely a very useful feature, which would help not only the convenience for using Monero on Bisq, but also for enabling automated trades later with the APIs. You can make them script. Yeah, you can write script and do trading bots and make the whole trade automated. You don't need to click the button anymore and check the blockchain when the transaction has been confirmed and such stuff. That can be then all done automated, which will be then a huge boost for those market traders who are more market makers and professional traders. So any developer, at the moment we don't have resources for working on this, but any developer is super welcome with background with Monero, and it would be good when he has also a little bit knowledge with Java. It's not very challenging to implement this, but yeah, everybody's welcome.
All right. I think that was great. Thank you for running us through it, showing us the application, and answering all our questions.
Yes, thanks for having me on your show. It was a great conversation, and I hope I made it a little bit more clear. Unfortunately, I'm not the best person with explaining complex stuff to audience. There are better ones. That's also what we're looking for, more people who will help us to translate this concepts, which are often very technical, to a broader audience, to bring it in an easier language.
Yeah, no, I think it's a great opportunity for a lot of people who aren't necessarily developers that always are looking to try to get more involved in projects, especially Monero. And I kind of see it getting involved in Bisq very much directly will help the Monero ecosystem. So like I said, I encourage anybody that's thinking about it to take action, try to get involved. And it seems like there's kind of a lot of low-hanging fruit in terms of things that can be done to help you guys out.
Yeah, definitely. And I think there's a lot of synergy, and I'm really happy that it develops so well with the Monero community. There's a strong Bisq supporter, and would be happy to give more back by adding more support for Monero, also like with this wallet, or maybe the Monero space, or to make Monero to fiat exchange possible. That's definitely a goal. But as said, probably it's much easier to do it with this off-chain trade protocol, because then there is no base currency anymore, and there's much less effort to implement this. And it's probably better to make this leap directly to this new trade protocol instead, wasting a lot of energy in applying it, complicating the current system, and then throw it away. That's probably not the best investment.
All right. Well, I appreciate you taking your time. Sorry for the time zone confusion.
Yeah, it was my mistake as well.
Hopefully, we'll stay. I hope to stay in touch and have you on the show again. Hopefully soon with some more progress. It seems, I'm sure there'll be plenty of growth coming down the pipe.
Yes, thanks a lot. Stay tuned for the next release. That will be a major release, with the redesign and with the DAO, and maybe also the APIs. I'm still not sure if we can make it, but that will be released also soon. And
All right.
Thanks for your time, and it was a pleasure.
Best of luck. Goodbye.
Goodbye.